Hey guys, welcome back to my channel. My name is Marnise Nicole and I'm an acrylic painter, and today is number 2 in my every single shade series. And so for the first set we went over my brown or skin tone drawer. I have a setup of drawers where my acrylic paints are all separated, and I had that brown drawer which was my most used drawer. I went ahead and filming today my next most used drawer, which is basically my white, gray, and black drawer, also some metallics in that drawer, and I'm going with that one next just because it's not as fun as the other drawer sets. You know, my greens and my turquoises and my warm tone reddish tone colors. So I wanted to get this one out of the way, but yeah, this will be part 2, and we're gonna go through our what do we call this, a neutrals drawer. So let's go ahead and get started. Firstly, because we are dealing with whites, blacks, and grays, I wanted to go ahead and put down a different base to do my swatches on. So with that being in mind, for this specific swatch sketchbook page, I put down primary colors. I am using Naphthol Crimson from Liquitex, the heavy body version. I am using the slightly transparent cadmium yellow light gin from Sharpen Arts, and then also a cobalt blue hue. And so we'll go ahead and just go through the colors that I do have. In my neutrals drawer, I don't really have a lot. Firstly, I have some Sharpen warm gray. This is a very well loved staple in my artillery of art supplies. I use this a lot for my shadows because it again is a warm gray, and I think it gives a very lovely effect for any type of artwork. I like to use it for shadows and skin tones as well, or to mix it in with things. And so I have this 60 milliliter, and I also have this big tube. Next color is Payne's Gray. Now this is a blue tone gray. If you are using a limited palette with this color, you don't have to have a blue, because it really is a gray blue. It can go very dark, it can go very light. I like to use this instead of using black sometimes because it gives a more natural darkness and shadow. And so we have that. In my black section, I only have 2 blacks. I don't use a lot of black. If I do use blacks, oftentimes I will just mix it from the colors that are already on my palette. But if I do need black, I often use this Mars Black from Sharpen, and then I also have this Carbon Black from Golden Acrylics. This is a liquid fluid acrylic. It makes a very smooth and crisp line, so sometimes I will use this instead of regular black so that I can have kind of ink effect when I'm doing my line work. Not that I've been doing a lot of line work recently. I feel like my art style is changing a little bit, but we'll talk about that in a different video. So anyway, we have these 2 blacks. And now for my whites in my neutral category, I have Structured White from Matisse. This is just titanium white. It is very well used and well loved tube of paint. I've had this specific tube of paint for over a year, and I'm still going strong with it. I'm trying to lean away from using titanium white. I just lean heavily into white, and it really ends up making my African American figures that I paint all the time look ashy if I'm just leaning towards it too much. So I try to limit my use of this color, and in that case I have some different color choices. I have Antique White. This is from Matisse, the Dervin brand. So it's kind of like yellowed, so it has like maybe a hint like Nathol's yellow in it, or some kind of like very hint of yellow. It's almost like a linen white, or like a book page that's just starting to yellow after it's aged a little bit. Like it's just a hint of it. But it is nice to use this instead of using titanium white just because of how toned down it is. It's not as bright and as sharp as a titanium white is, so I really like using that. I I have this paint marker, which I got in the Art Snacks one time. If I remember correctly, I'm pretty sure it was Art Snacks or some kind of subscription box. I never use this. It is still practically full. I don't know if these go bad at all, but I assume not because it's still acrylic paint. But if I would need a white marker, I assume I would use this. The only reason why I haven't really used this is because I don't really have a need for it. I don't really do graphic line work at all, especially not with this big a nib. The nib is like huge, very, very huge, and so I don't grab for this, but I still have it as an option. So we have that. Finally, I have parchment colored white. This is like if white and like a burnt sienna had like a little baby and that baby had a little baby with more white. So it is just like parchment paper. It's like some stone that's been tempered a little bit. It is a almost tan, like slightest hint of tan, slightest hint of color. But yeah, there's that. It's like an off-white, but being more pigmented than an off-white, if that makes any sense. And finally, I have Unbleached Titanium, which I love. This should really be in my skin tone drawer, but it's not in that drawer just simply because I use it more often as a neutral base than I would as a skin tone. And technically it's white, so it's Unbleached Titanium. It's like the titanium white, but it makes sense in my head, so there we go. And so we're going to use these and we're going to swatch these over our primary colors to see how they look and how they take effect. And then we're also going to add in just my 4 little metallic, shimmery, silvery, pearlescent colors. I have a few of these. I have a Iridescent Bronze, which I use so little of, but it's so effective as a color. This is a very pigmented tube. I've had it for years now and I've used it, but it still has so much left in it too. I've probably had this for like 4 years. I got this in that golden acrylic sample pack that they have, the A to Z golden acrylics. It's like a $40 box set of like various different types of acrylic paints and like mediums and that sort of thing from the company. And I really wanted to get that as soon as I started off painting because it's like the Explorer set and I could try a bunch of different things. But anyway, out of those boxes I still had this, which was the Iridescent Bronze, and it's fine milled. I don't know what that means, but it is. I have the Interface Violet. This is the best highlight. It really is. It is so nice, and it kind of fuses from like a pearlescent white to like this hint of like purple, and it's so light, and it's a color that shifts. And I want to try more of the Interference line. I just haven't gone out of my way to go get more of them, but man, is it pretty. I love it. And then I have this metallic copper. This is from Matisse. It's their Flow brand. I really like the Flow brand from Matisse. I just haven't purchased a lot from it, but I remember having a sienna and a umber from them, browns, but they're so liquidy, and that makes them so blendable with everything else, with the structure lines from that brand, with other brands, and also even for it being a Flow kind of line of art supplies and acrylic paints, it is very like pigmented in and of itself, and not as watery as like a fluid acrylic would typically be. So I really like this brand. I need to invest in more from this brand, but until then we're gonna swatch this metallic. And then the last thing I have is a little bit left. I have like a little, maybe fourth of this left of this Iridescent Silver from Golden. Actually, now that I think about it, this was also probably from the Golden A to Z. Their products last so long. That's why I think it's always good to invest in high quality art supplies, because they'll last you a long time. They don't really go bad unless you don't store them properly. So anyway, we have that. And now I'm going to stop off camera, do the swatches, show those off to you, and then we will film the time lapse of me creating some art. Okay guys, much later, very much later, I have completed my sketchbook page. And I decided to do like a dancing couple, but I gave it a little quarantine aesthetic. And so she is wearing a formal gown with a matching mask because that's how the future's gonna look. Debutante balls and gala events, you're gonna have some fancy face wear. At least that's what I foresee in our future. So I did that. She's dancing with a guy who has a slightly sinister like look to him, especially because he's not wearing a mask. So like, bruh, seriously, what are you doing? So anyway, this is the sketchbook page. Let me go ahead and show it to you. All right, here is the finished sketchbook page. This is all of my swatches, and of course I inserted some clips of the swatches throughout. The iridescent one you can't really see unless you do a little one of these numbers, and it's also a little very lightly right here. And out of these colors, I really like that I use this again. I haven't used this color, this bronze color, or this metallic copper color in so long, but it really ends up with a nice effect, a very shiny effect. I also went ahead and did this over top of all of my layers in her dress, so they had a nice little extra hint to it as well. And so this is the scene. I really like the kind of shadowing that I kind of got, and I kind of like the messy look. It's the style I've been incorporating lately. I'm gonna talk about how my style has been evolving, especially as I go through each of these drawers, play with each of these colors, and like go through and make all of these sketchbook pages. I'm noticing little differences in details of how I'm painting now, and it's something that is standing out, and so I think it's time to talk about it. But back to the figure on this side. First of all, this blue in the background is not just a regular blue, it is the Payne's gray. It is a gray color, but when you add white to it or you kind of wash it out a little bit, the gray is definitely just blue. It is in the blue family. It makes me wonder if it's in the wrong drawer, but as I use it as a neutral, as a background color, as a definer, I think it does well here, and I think I'll keep it where it is. And so this is my little quarantine masquerade, literally masquerade sketchbook page, and I will see you guys next time. Bye.